Okay, good evening. I'm not getting a signal, but I'll assume we're on the air. But we're going to start anyway. It is April 7th, 2026. This is a meeting of Coeur d'Alene City Council. I will call the meeting to order. The clerk will take the roll.
English.
Here.
Sheckler.
Here.
Wood.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Miller. Gabriel.
Here. Very good. For our invocation tonight, we have Pastor Tim Robert from Mountain Lakes Bible Church forward and lead us in our invocation. Will everyone please rise?
Thank you. I welcome you all to pray with me. Dear Father God, we are grateful for creation. What a marvelous, beautiful world and season you have made for our community to enjoy. Today has been the first of many beautiful days. Many people are outside. Parks are filling up with community children. We come together for a council meeting tonight, days after the world celebrated Jesus' resurrection, after being the perfect sacrificial lamb for all the sin in the world. If you look at John 3:16 and 17, we see that Jesus was here to condemn the world, but to save the world. I'm praying to you, Father God, for your love and protection for all the people of our community, and for your wisdom and guidance. Move in the leaders here in this room. I pray for your blessings for the people of tonight's meeting, that discussions and solutions are pleasing to you, Lord, that you, Father God, would smile on our community. I pray for peace. I pray for wisdom for justice. I pray for wisdom, mercy, and I pray for the safety of our soldiers across the world. I am grateful for this opportunity. Lord God, may your will be done. And Jesus' holy name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Kiki, you lead us in the prayer, please.
Certainly. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item D, amendments to the agenda.
Mr. Mayor. I'm sorry. I'd like to make a motion to enter into executive session, adding that item K to our agenda today, pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061A, to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff, or individual agent, and the respective qualities of individuals are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need.
Very good. That's a motion.
Second it.
The motion is second. Any discussion on the motion?
So does this, you're wanting to go into exec session right away or something? Or after?
After meeting.
Yes, she said item J, so that will be our last item.
Oh, okay, thanks, okay.
Any other discussion on the motion?
It's actually in K.
Item K, of course, which is confusing. But item K, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good. And item J, which is the one I was looking, do we need a motion for item J?
I actually had it.
Oh, you have another, a second part. We're moving on.
At the last minute, I was able to break it into motions.
Very
The second would be A-A. I'd like to make a motion to approve the appointment of John Fugate to the position of fire chief for the city of Coeur d'Alene.
And that's added to the agenda.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Motion a second. Any discussion on this one?
Mr. Mayor, I think we should include in motion that it's an action item.
Okay, and these, yes.
If
You agree? Key?
Yeah.
And Mr. Scherer?
Yes.
Okay, that's an action item that we're adding to make the appointment. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. And we have one more.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to correct the project title under item J, public hearing to reference Ramsey Road signal upgrades, number 24276, rather than rectangular rapid flash beacon project number 22874.
It's a motion to amend the agenda for a hearing item.
Second.
There's a second. Any discussion on the motion? Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Anything else on the agenda? Very good. Well, we have lots of presentations tonight. Some proclamations. We'll start with Fair Housing Month. Kiki?
My words. Whereas, on April 11th, 1968, President Lyndon Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act of 1968. The 1968 Act clarified the prohibition of discrimination regarding the sale, rental, financing of housing based on race, religion, national origin, sex, and as later amended disability and family status. And whereas it's been 50 years since the enactment of the 1968 Act, and the community of Coeur d'Alene continues to work together to uphold the fair housing law and the principle of equal opportunity on which it's based. And whereas this month is deemed Fair Housing Month and should be a celebration of law and efforts of the citizens to remove impediments to equal housing opportunities, to emphasize and ensure the rights of all citizens in an effort to provide housing choice. And whereas equal opportunity housing can be best accomplished through leadership, example, education, and the mutual cooperation of all those affiliated with real estate industry and public. And whereas the City of Coeur d'Alene supports the ongoing efforts of many organizations, housing and service providers through continued education outreach in regard to fair housing. Now, therefore, Kiki Miller, on behalf of Daniel Gukin, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim April 2026 as Fair Housing Month. Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and ask that people to join in affirming their commitments to fair housing opportunities for all, to wholeheartedly recognize these rights throughout the year. And in witness of, Mayor Gukin has laid his hand. Is there anyone here
Yes.
who is here to accept proclamation?
Stephen Smith here for to accept the proclamation. Okay.
We'll get this to them.
We will get that to him. Thank you so much, Keith. And it's my turn to do the Week of the Young Child. Whereas the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children, Idaho AEYC, is celebrating Week of the Young Child April 11th to April 17th, 2026. Whereas these organizations are working to promote and inspire high-quality early childhood experiences for our state's youngest citizens, that they can provide a strong foundation of learning and lifelong success for Idaho's youngest citizens. And whereas young children thrive when they have access to developmentally appropriate, affordable, high-quality early care education settings, and whereas early child educators and those who work with on behalf of children birth through age 8 who have meaningful difference in the lives of young children in the City of Coeur d'Alene deserve our thanks, support, and recognition, and whereas public policies that support early learning for all young children are critical to young children's future and the prosperity of Idaho's families, communities, and economy. Now, therefore, I, Daniel K. Gukin, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim the week of April 11th through April 17th, 2026, Week of the Young Child, Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and hereby recognize that when our community invests in early childhood care and education, we also invest in our children, families, and the future of our community. So let's see, we have Tanya Sears available to access. Okay, we'll make sure that Tanya gets a copy. And we're not done with our proclamation. We're moving on to Dark Sky Week.
Okay, is James Filmer here? Oh, good, okay, third time's a charm, okay, good. Proclamation, whereas the aesthetic beauty and wonder of natural night sky is a public resource and a shared heritage of all mankind, and the experience of standing beneath a starry night sky inspires feelings of wonder and awe and encourages a growing interest in science and nature, especially among young people, out-of-town visitors within the local communities. And whereas light pollution has specifically established economic and environmental consequences which result in significant impact on the ecology and human health of all communities, and whereas recent data shows that North America on average has a 10.4% increase in light pollution annually over the last 10 years, which means more people live with excessive artificial lighting at night than disrupts natural darks and may never experience the visual wonder of living under a dark sky. And whereas Idaho is home to dozens of nocturnal wildlife species that rely on undisturbed night environments to hunt, mate, and thrive. And whereas Dark Sky International, headquartered in Tucson, Arizona, has created International Dark Sky Week to raise awareness of light pollution and to establish the protection of and enjoyment of dark sky and responsible lighting. Now, therefore, I, Dan English, on behalf of Daniel Gukin, Mayor of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do proclaim this week, the week of April 18th through 24th, 2026, as International Dark Sky Week. In Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, I ask each resident to join me, not only in observing and pondering upon this important week, but also in raising awareness and supporting protection for our precious dark skies resources. And we'd like to ask Mr. Fillmore to come, and I'll give you the original copy.
thank you, Mr. English, Mr. Gukin, Mayor, and council members for this proclamation. I feel like old friends. For the record, I did try to line up another advocate to give the talk tonight, but she was not available tonight. Anyway, this is the 5th anniversary of the year of a city proclamation recognizing the importance of limiting light pollution, not just so we can enjoy the aesthetic of the skies, but for the benefits of humans and animals and wildlife alike. Nighttime light exposure disrupts human circadian rhythm by suppressing melatonin, leading to severe health issues, including sleep disorders, increased risk of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and depression. Indoor sources exposure is typically a bigger factor than outdoor sources, but individuals have better control of those sources. Millions of birds die annually from colliding with illuminated buildings and towers, especially on cloudy nights, where light reflects off clouds, attracting birds from up to 3 miles away. This is why Dark Sky International and the National Audubon Society have a joint program to reduce lighting during migratory season. Approximately 60% of insects are active at night. Artificial lighting disrupts their mating and attracts them to circle the fixtures until they are exhausted, with nearly 1/3 dying before morning. Declining insect populations negatively impact all species that rely on insects for food or pollination, including humans. So what do we do about bad lighting? Well, of course, we can all individually learn some key principles for better lighting. Useful. All lighting should have a clear purpose. Targeted. Lighting should be directed only to where it is needed. Controlled. Lighting should only be used when it is needed. Most detectors and timers should be used to turn on, dim, and turn off lights. Low light levels. Lighting should be no brighter than necessary. However, while asking people to do the right thing works with a large percentage of people, there are always those that don't. That is unfortunately why we need regulations, or in the case, city ordinances. Lighting ordinances are not new. Cities around Idaho have had responsible lighting ordinances since 1999, but the rise of bright, glare-reducing LED fixtures has raised people's concerns about excess lighting. So much so that it's just called light pollution, but light trespass. It isn't just that light is going off in the night sky causing sky glow, shining into people's homes, especially their bedrooms. This is why I appeal again to the City Council to work with me and others to consider what we can do about the growing problem. Again, thank you for issuing a Dark Sky Week proclamation and for your time tonight. And for those interested, there will be a Dark Sky booth at the KEA's Lane Public Library at the event on April 18th.
Very, thank you, James. Any
Questions?
Thank you so much. And I have heard Mr. Smith here for the Fair Housing Month. Yeah, if you would please come, and Kiki, if you could give the proclamation.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure I had an incredible speech on Fair Housing Month. Thank you, councilmen and women, and Mayor Gukin. As president of Coeur Regional Realtors, on behalf of them, I want to let you know that we make fair housing a major priority. We hold regular classes to better educate our members on fair housing and bias recognition, to provide tools to best help clients of every walk of life purchase a home in North Idaho. Every year, we hold a charity golf tournament, proceeds of which are donated to area charities that serve various members of our communities. We also are working our second annual Rampathon, which I'm very proud of, which provides ramps for homeowners with a member of the household who needs mobility assistance. Additional applications for 2026 are being accepted. So if you or anyone in the crowd here knows of someone who's in need of a ramp, please apply to Coeur d'Alene Regional Realtors, and we would love to build 10 ramps here for those in need. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Any question? Very good. Thank you.
All right, thanks.
And we have one more proclamation for Arbor Day, Mr. Scheckler.
Mr. Mayor. Whereas in 1872, the Nebraska Board of Agriculture established a special day to be set aside for the planting of trees, and whereas a holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees are a renewable resource giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products, and as trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community, and whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. Now therefore, I, Daniel Scheckler, on behalf of Daniel K. Gukin, Mayor of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, do hereby proclaim April 24th, 2026 as Arbor Day. And I urge all citizens to join in the celebration of Arbor Day on Friday, April 24, 2026, and to support efforts to protect our trees and woodlands. And I further urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden the heart and promote the being of this and future generations.
And we have Monty McCullough, who's our herb forester, freshly minted. Oh, you're going to come? Why don't you go ahead, Dan?
Good evening. So this is John. He's the president of the Urban Forestry Committee. I'm going to do a presentation on Arbor Day this year, and then he'll talk a little bit about the seedling giveaway and other things. So this picture here is last year's Arbor Day at, and you were there, I believe, Mr. at Persons Field. The kids from Ram Elementary helping us plant about 10 trees along there. So every year we apply for Tree USA. We're in our 42nd year, and these are the stats that we have to do them every year. We planted 469 public trees last year. 111 trees were removed, and 865 were pruned. So our celebration is going to be at City Park this year. We'll be planting 18 trees along the seawall. So park staff will do about 13 of them, and then have the kids from Ramsey Elementary come and plant the remaining 5 with our help. Also have the seedling giveaway, free info booth from 10 to 2, free donuts and coffee for volunteers or for anybody who comes and gets a seedling. And we're going to raffle off one large tree. So this year we're going to plant 9 starlight flowering crab apples and 9 prairie fire crab apples. They'll be alternating red and pink in fall when the leaves change color. Or maybe that's flowers, I don't know. But we're doing a deal where we're planting them in above ground self-watering pots because we're not allowed to plant in the ground along the seawall anymore. And so the trees along there have all died, or mostly died, purple leaf plants. We'll remove the remainder of those and put the pots in. They'll be filled full of water and mulch, and then the tree itself. And they're very large, so they can accommodate these smaller trees, but be enough to not get knocked over, hopefully. So we water them, I think, once a month, and then water will last that entire month. So NIC is also doing their art day the following day at the Molstead Library. They'll have vendor booths, nursery, and more seed giveaways, and come to stop by either. That one's from 12 to 2. And there's everything I just covered. That's our poster for this year. And these are the donors that are given the seedlings, paid for the seedlings that John will be handing out, and we'll all be handing out to all the 4th graders here.
Thank you, folks that are now contributing money to help pay for that. And the program has gone way beyond Coeur d'Alene now, so we have a nonprofit group called Arbor Day of North Idaho, and now we're giving out seedlings to all the 4th graders in the whole county. So that's all the way up to Rathdrum, Spirit Lake, and et cetera. And this year we're going to be giving out 2,500 seedlings, and that total now over the 41 years that we've been doing that is over 90,000 seedlings that we're doing. It's all no charge at all to the City of Coeur d'Alene. It's all been volunteer expenses and volunteer effort to do it. We have a bagging, kind of a bagging event where we'd have 50 so volunteers individually put each one in a little newspaper bag, pass it on to the next person, and they go out to all the 4th graders. So anyway, and you mentioned the number, the species, didn't you? Oh, no. Okay, so this year we're doing Eastern Redbud, Katsura, which is a real pretty fall-colored tree. It's beautiful here. Zelkova, which is a replacement for elm trees because it doesn't get Dutch elm disease, and flowering dogwood. So they're going to be really beautiful trees. And even if you don't happen to have a 4th grader, you can go by the library. All the libraries in all the county are going to have at least 50 of a mixture of seedlings to pick up starting on Friday, April 25th or what I guess it is. So anyway, thank you.
Yes, I wanted to thank you too. And by the way, when my son Jonah was in the 4th grade, he got a seedling, a little stick thing. And it was a larch. And it's still in my backyard. It's like 12 feet tall, and it is the ugliest tree in my yard.
That's why we changed.
Yes. So anyway, but it's still growing. So I just want to let you know. Thank you for doing that. Any questions for Monty or John? And I hope everyone can make it out there on Friday for that event. They're always fun. I think I've hit every one in the past few years. Thank you for what you do. Love trees. All right, we're going to move on to item F, which is public comment. I have a sign-up sheet. There's another sign-up sheet there for our hearing, so I don't think we confuse the two, but this is just for public comment. We'll start with Mary Merrill.
Waiting for my husband. Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor, City Attorney, and staff. My name is Mary Merrill. I am here with my husband, Link Shadley. We live in Oak Crest Manufactured Home Park. A character of a man can be determined by his actions and the company he keeps. Oak Crest Manufactured Home Park here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho is owned by Haven Park Communities located in Orem, Utah. We received a letter from Oak Crest on March 13th stating that Oak Crest will be installing new utility meters under our homes. Work began on or about the 23rd of March. Residents have taken pictures of the meters that were installed under their homes. I contacted the City of Coeur d'Alene to see if the workers had pulled the necessary plumbing permits. They had not. I am here to thank the city for their swift action in placing a stop work order on the job, which includes approximately 450 homes. City employees and officials were very responsive to my request. Oak Crest is operating under a conditional use permit with the City of Coeur d'Alene for the rights-of-way along Ramsey and Dalton and for the public green spaces within the park. They are not watering these spaces. They are in violation of their conditional use permit. The city has had conversations with management concerning this. Oak Crest stated they would begin to water the spaces along the public right-of-way this spring. I repeat, the character of a man can be determined by the company he keeps and the actions he exhibits. The Haven Park community owns manufactured home parks nationwide. It is a capital investment company with a national reputation. My request today is for the city to continue to keep the management of our park accountable. They have already demonstrated that they began a very large plumbing project without the necessary permits. They have already demonstrated they have not watered the public right-of-ways. There are now at least 7 dead arborvitae trees along Ramsey. Maybe we need the tree people to get involved. Arborvitae trees are highly flammable when they're dead. I have a great concern about fire danger along Ramsey. I thank you for your assistance and rapid responses for my requests. The city personnel have demonstrated competency and diligency in their work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary. Next up is Jonathan Burns. And Council, you have a handout that Mr. Burns has provided.
You might need your readers, sorry. A little small. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and city employees. I'd like to take a moment to request a small small change to the current 2-hour parking zones in the downtown core. My name is Jonathan Burns. My wife and I own a small medical practice on Wallace Avenue called Core Vitality Family Medicine. We would like to see a modification to City Code 10.24.020 and add a 2-hour parking limit to the south side of Wallace Avenue between 1st and 2nd Streets. I've highlighted it below. It's kind of hard to see. It's just a little bit of yellow there. So it's just a 1-block section. Downtown Coeur d'Alene is growing. In addition to our practice, Mark Jackson has a law office next door, and we are expecting a jewelry shop to open up next door within the year. I've spoken with Mr. Jackson about adding a 2-hour parking, and he is in agreement. Having street parking close to local businesses is a key way the city can support our local businesses. Keeping all-day parking on the north side of the street while making the south side 2-hour parking will both help customers and provide a reasonable amount of all-day parking for those that need it. With regards to the load-unload zone that I'm requesting, we get daily deliveries, and currently, delivery trucks partially block Wallace Avenue while they deliver. You guys can see a picture there of where I'm kind of asking for. As Wallace is a main east-west arterial in the downtown core, this is not ideal for anyone. Additionally, it would provide a consistent, easy drop-off for our patients when our on-site parking is full. And finally, the space in question is rather small and between 2 driveways, so people tend to park poorly, especially with larger trucks, and block one or the other driveway anyways. Thank you for your consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions right now, or you guys can shoot me an email, which I've included on the handout.
Do we have any questions for Jonathan?
Just real quick,
Please.
is this straight across the street from the Roosevelt Inn?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you coming here, Jonathan. We're going to look into it and see what steps need to be taken. Normally, we would have a parking commission.
Yep.
We dissolved it.
I know, I was
So
on it.
we'll have to see exactly
Yeah.
how it needs to move forward, but we'll see about moving it forward.
Okay. Well,
Thank
thanks
you.
for your time.
Jesse Duncan.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jesse Duncan, and I'm the owner of Chubby's Gourmet Hot Dogs. I've lived in North Idaho my entire life. I spent years working in kitchens across this area. Most recently, I was a steak cook at Wolf Lodge until it burned down, which pushed me to fully commit to building my own business. Recently, I received an email from code enforcement notifying me that I can no longer operate my hot dog cart on the sidewalk. This came after 3 years of operating in Coeur d'Alene, and it made me realize there isn't currently a framework for small mobile vendors like myself. Throughout that time, my goal has not been to just run a business, but to reinforce and support other local businesses and be a positive part of the community. While working near places like Blue Shell and Laker, I was able to provide food and a drinking environment, helping people stay safe, avoid getting sick, and make better decisions before heading home. I've made a consistent effort to keep my space clean, organized, and respectful. My presence has always been about adding to the environment and not taking away from it. When I went to the city clerk's office, there was a deputy city clerk's office, there was confusion on how to classify my setup. My cart doesn't really fit into the existing categories, are largely designed around full-sized food trucks. That experience showed me that this type of small mobile business doesn't quite have a place in Coeur d'Alene's current framework. I understand that city code doesn't allow for sidewalk vending in that I've been operating, and I respect the need for the compliance. At the same time, I think there are reasonable solutions that could work for both the city and small businesses like me. For example, the city could consider a right-of-way permit for mobile vendors with clear limitations, such as maintaining a minimum amount of unobstructed sidewalk and strict cleanliness standards. This would allow vendors to operate responsibly while ensuring public safety and accessibility remain a priority. I believe creating a structured path like this would not only help businesses like mine, but also encourage more local entrepreneurship and add to the character of Coeur d'Alene. Ideally, I would love the ability to continue operating in the areas where I've already built relationships, and I've demonstrated that this can work really well. I'm open to working with reasonable guidelines to ensure safety, cleanliness, accessibility, while still allowing small businesses like mine to exist and to grow. At the end of the day, I'm trying to build something local, something that supports this community, straightens other businesses, and gives people a place to gather safely. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And thank you, Jesse. And one of the reasons that I asked Jesse to make a talk here tonight is we tried to find out a way to fit his business into the mobile food rules that we have for mobile vendors and food courts, and he just doesn't fit. And there's options that are available, but what you'd like to see is really on the sidewalk.
What most prominently have in Coeur d'Alene right now is, like I said, the appeal to large food trucks. There's multiple food courts in Coeur d'Alene with full hookups for a more permanent solution, a permanent place for these places to stay. What I operate is at a food cart that you just kind of stand outside of. Mm-hmm. It's out in the open, it's not enclosed. It's still trailered, but it's very small, it's very mobile. And we don't really have anything like that in Coeur d'Alene, and it really appealed to me to start doing that. I went to school in Moscow, Idaho, and we had a hot dog guy just down the street in Moscow that everybody knew and everybody loved. And I know Bernie behind Iron Horse, he's operating within the limitations by being on private commercial property. I know he's kind of become a local legend around here, and that's something that I wanted to aspire to be. Ultimately, on a sidewalk that's not obstructing or dealing with, cleanliness issues, but either way, I'll find a way about it. I just wanted to serve the demographic that I'm currently serving and the people that have grown to depend on me in the areas that I've been in.
Thank you. So this isn't an action item, but I just wanted to get a sense from council whether this would be something you would be interested in having us pursue.
I think we should. I mean, what's more American than a hot dog stand on the sidewalk? So And it's a 250th celebration coming up.
Good. Okay, so I'm gonna see what we can do. There's other limitations as well. There's one for the fire department, and I know that was a consideration with being behind the blue shell.
Yeah,
There's
so,
not enough space.
yeah, that one was a little bit conflicting. There's also, I wrote down some other limitations just for something to consider. I understand we don't probably want a city of Coeur d'Alene where our streets are just flooded with vendors. I know that's not ideal. I'm not trying to be special in the way that I get permission and other people don't. But some other limitations I wrote is some defined operating areas. Maybe something downtown Sherman work as well as something outside of that, considering foot traffic. Equipment size limits, operating hours, just some stuff to take into consideration.
I'll look into it, and I'll get back to you.
Thank you.
That would be great, Mr. Mayor. I think it'd be a great idea.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And Ed Morse.
Who's for the?
Oh, did you say?
For the hearing?
Yes, he's here for the zone change.
Okay, he's here for the zone change.
Sign up for
Very good. Sorry about that. Is anyone else here for public comment, would like to make public comment? Okay, we're going to move on to council announcements. Anyone from the city council have an announcement to make? Kenny?
Mayor, Wendy and I would love to announce the newest addition to our family. Mr. Wilder Olson was born 2 weeks and 1 day ago in beautiful Burley, Idaho. 8 pounds, 11 ounces, and mom and baby are doing great, and grandma's still smiling, so.
Wonderful.
We're thrilled about that. Thank you.
Wilder, very good.
Yes.
Any other announcements from the council? Okay, I have a presentation to our fire chief. Tom, if you could come forward to the turn, please. Right here, over here.
Facing council.
Yes, facing the council. So this is our fire chief. This is Tom Greif. He's been chief for how long now?
4 years.
4 years. And before that, for about 40 years, he was the deputy chief. And then for several hundred before that, you were a paramedic with our fire department.
Yeah.
So he's been with us for a long time. And I do appreciate you and appreciate the service that you've done to the city of Coeur d'Alene. You are retiring next week. But we're probably not rid of you because we're going to be in transition here, so I appreciate your assistance helping with that. And I appreciate all that you've done for the city of Coeur d'Alene. So I will present you with the key to the city. There we go. And do we have a picture? Well, I didn't tell her we wanted this, so she's just going to run over here with her phone desperately to get the picture. Thank you, Joanne.
Congratulations,
Thank you so much.
I'll keep it brief. Yeah, this is such an honor. I will definitely display this with pride at home for everybody that comes over. This means a lot to me. I've been here not quite 60 years, but 28 and 7 months and 6 days left, so I'm not counting. But I truly want to thank, like Bill Greenwood did a few weeks ago, not just you all up there, but past mayors and councils all the way back to Mayor Judy. All of the councils and mayors that I got to live through were so supportive for public safety year after year after year, even in tough budget times. The executive team has been amazing the last 4 years, supportive, some mentoring me through the budget process, and because there's always a learning curve there. And the men and women that I get to work with at the fire department, there's been so many changes and new faces, but change is good. I don't like it because I'm over 50, but I think the new energy and vision that we have from our new folks is exciting to see. There's always different ways to do things, better ways to do things, and the community is so lucky to have the folks that I get to work with every day, my administration. And then lastly, the people that live here. This whole community, it's been such a pleasure to raise a family here. And I know growth it's a tough word, say the G word, and I'm not talking about population, but I think the strength of this community gets more and more every year, the resilience. We've seen it through good and bad, especially last year. And that's that quality of life. If I didn't live here, I'd want to live here too.
So I welcome people here. I know it's a great place to live. It's making it a little bit challenging on our kids, but yeah. And just thank you to all of you. I have one more week left, and yeah, we'll make it. It's been a good run, and I'm looking forward to Chapter 2.
Thank you so much,
We're
Chief.
going to miss you, Tom.
I'll be around. I'm going to come to the budget workshop just because I like
Fabulous.
the entertainment.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. And so I have a couple of appointments to make. We have Daniel Rhodes and Brian Smith to the Historical Preservation Commission and John Burke to our Urban Forestry Committee.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to confirm the appointments of Danielle Rhodes and Brian Smith to the Historic Preservation Commission and John Burke to the Urban Forestry Committee.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion has carried. We're moving on to item H, which is the consent calendar.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented, including Resolution 26-026.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on our consent calendar? Okay, the clerk will take the roll.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Scheckler.
Yes.
Okay, the motion carries. We're moving on to item I-1, which is a zone change. This is a ZC 126, a zone change from mobile home 8 units per acre, to R17 residential 17 dwelling units per acre for a parcel measuring 0.522 acres located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane. This is pursuant to council action at the last council meeting. Sean Holm will present the staff report. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. So tonight before you, I'll start with a reminder that Planning Commission previously recommended approval of the zone change by a 5-0 vote with no conditions. Other findings and analysis contained in the original staff report remained unchanged. So, in March 17th, Council directed staff to explore with the applicant whether the development agreement could be negotiated to secure the proposed 9 workforce housing units in conjunction with the zone change and some form of a development agreement to allow for workforce housing. So, after I had contacted, well, I guess before I go into the contact, council had approved the zone change subject to this, exploring this with the applicant. So I called the applicant and he had hired Ed Morse to be his representative, and he did some research, sent some information to staff, and ultimately, as an attachment, which is on the back of my sheet, the second sheet for council, said after the phone conversation, I had a conversation with my client about the difficulty of monitoring and managing such a small-scale workforce housing project. We're in agreement that we should take this back to council and ask them to approve the zone change without the workforce housing development agreement. So the applicant is therefore elected not to pursue the development agreement that would restrict or obligate the property to workforce housing. And his email is attached. I have some, I was asked to try and be brief on this as much as possible, but I do have some calculations and economies of scale that I put together based on a couple of other development agreements, if staff, or if council would like staff to present those. See a nod.
Sure.
Council?
Okay. So the calculations that I did, there was 2 development agreements that I'm aware of that have a workforce housing element to them through a development agreement. The first one, River's Edge, it's 600 units. It also has an R34 special use permit for increased density. 10% of those units are designated as workforce housing with a sunset after 5 years. That leaves approximately 60 units that would fall into that category, leaving 540 market rate units to absorb through economies of scale, because basically there is pass-through in these. The developer at some point is going to spread that cost amongst the other units, and so they're able to absorb that. Cortair, so that's 438 acres. There's multiple zones from R3 to C17. It also has a PUD as part of it now that's been approved with a maximum of 2,800 units. 5% of those units that are either rented or purchased into perpetuity would be part of that workforce housing. And so doing those calculations, based upon the theoretical level of this project, which is 0.522 acres, so a little over half of an acre, if they were able to do some fairly expensive construction and realize the full capacity, capacity that is allowed at 9 units, 5% would be 0.45 or 45% of a single unit. At 10%, it would be 90% of a single unit. More likely, they would realize around 6 to 7 units, which would be about 30 to 35% of a single unit, or 10%, 60 to 70% of a single unit. And so I think what the applicant is saying is it's just very difficult to manage a single unit. So Ed Morse is here to represent the applicant, and I'll have him come up.
He has a question for Sean.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question, but I wanted to set the table just a little bit because I was the one who started this. A lot of the work that I've been doing with the Housing Solutions Partnership has dealt with the exact thing that you just gave us data on, and that is, how do we create attainable housing that protects it into the future? How does a city work with our development community in order to protect their investment in attainable, and how do we manage those things? One of the things that a number of us had talked about in the future is that, and unfortunately, this project coming up, being the first one to come to council after I had these conversations, is probably not the most appropriate one to have a development agreement negotiation discussion because it's too small. And I recognize that and had said so. But I've also made a commitment that as a region, if we're going to move the dial at all on creating attainable housing that's fair to the developer, that's fair to the community, and that the city can actually imagine participate in some way to support that effort, we have to ask every zone change request, every project that comes before us, if they would consider entering into a negotiated development agreement. Now, in my view, because I'm passionate about this, the data that you just gave us just illustrates the dismal amount of work we've done to date, in that we've missed opportunities with large projects to get larger amounts of attainable housing in them that the developer doesn't have to just take a loss at completely. So I think that throughout the cities, throughout Kootenai County, having a discussion and making it part of our habit to get into development agreement discussions is what the goal of me bringing this forward was. I have the utmost respect for Mr. Morse. In fact, I just spoke with some folks on a statewide level today about similar conversations that he wrote a brilliant white paper on how we can do some housing through taxation stuff throughout the state. So I feel like this is kind of serendipitous that it all came together with this particular project, but I did want council to get a clear explanation of what I was trying to do here and what I believe and I hope we see throughout the region, that when there are change opportunities that come to councils, that they realize they do have a tool out there that can be used in a negotiation capacity to get some local worker housing done. So I wanted to say that. I don't have any major heartburn over the stats or the fact that there wouldn't be attainable housing in this project. I think their argument is that where it's located, it's probably not going to be a super high rental rate anyway. But I think that all of us have seen developer after developer come to the podium, planning and zoning and council, and say, well, we want this increase in density because we're doing affordable housing. And then 2 months later, they go, now that didn't pencil, so we're not doing that. This is a way to start a new chapter in how we discuss these things. And we work with our developers and with our requesters to give them something in exchange, maybe higher density, maybe smaller green space. Who knows what the negotiation within the agreement should be. Bottom line is we should have that negotiation at all opportunities. And I just wanted to put that out on the table. And thank you, Mr. Morse, for being here. I will follow up on your other project. And I do appreciate all the work that staff went through to go backwards and have this discussion. That wasn't a question. It was just a,
Back to you, Sean.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Kiki. I understand. It's not staff's goal to sway either way. You know, we were directed to go and have a conversation, which we did. We just provide the information. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ed.
Mayor Gookin and council members, you have a copy, a draft, the copy of my letter that I submitted to staff. It's unsigned. Staff has a signed copy of that letter. It outlines our reasoning and position why you shouldn't impose a development agreement on this particular zone change in this particular neighborhood. I've included a number of photos of the neighborhood, the makeup and character of the neighborhood, which is mixed use, a lot of mobile homes, 2 apartment complexes right across the street. Those really set the character and the rent levels of this neighborhood. And if I can't think of another neighborhood in Coeur d'Alene that is closer to a definition of workforce housing than this particular neighborhood. And I also included in my memo information on the rent levels of the apartments across the street, and those are workforce housing rent levels. So on behalf of the developer, our position is we don't need a workforce housing development agreement for this particular zone change. In addition, in talking to staff, the regulatory mechanism for workforce housing does not appear to be in place. Things like a definition of workforce housing, the inputs to the income levels for workforce housing, the supervisory mechanism for workforce housing, and to go try to invent that and adopt it for a small scale rezone in this case, I think is inappropriate. And frankly, I think you need to focus. I understand Councilwoman's comments and intent about you need to focus towards workforce housing and do it consistently, but recognize that it's the larger projects that economically can accommodate these kinds of things, and the larger projects in good locations are going to be the ones that have the highest rent appreciation rather than a neighborhood like this, and to incorporate into those projects probably with a density bonus as part of the overall formula, an incentive, and build into those projects workforce housing. That framework is not in place, but I think your intent is to, as a goal, would be to meet some sort of a framework like that would be financially feasible. The long and the short of it is, as summarized in my letter, on behalf of the developer, we don't think it's appropriate to impose that on the small zone change in this particular location. So I would ask that you approve the zone change and lift the condition of the development agreement. And I'm happy to answer any kinds of questions that you have.
Are there any questions for Mr. Morse? Okay, thank you, Ed. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, we have, yes, Daniel Shepherd.
I move
You may go ahead.
to approve a zone change from M8, 8 units per acre, to R17, 17 dwelling units per acre for a parcel measuring 0.522 acres located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane, based on the findings and conclusions announced at the March 17th, 2026 council meeting.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. And as Dan just read, the findings and conclusions have already been accepted by council, so we don't need to do that again. But yes, questions?
My comment is just that I think to get attainable housing, I think we need to increase supply. I think that there's supply and demand that dictates price. And when we create more housing units, broadly speaking, I think we're going to see prices go down. And so when I look at this particular zone change, I see 8 units going up to 17 units per acre, and I think that's a good move in the right direction. I think it's appropriate in the area. There's apartments nearby, commercial nearby. I think it's a good spot for high density, more higher density, or I guess medium density. R17, we have higher than that density. And I look at the broader zone there, and if we're going to create more attainable housing, we can do that through development agreements, but we can also do it by having some courage to change some zones where it's appropriate to higher density. And that will let the market provide the housing units that will lower supply, or increase supply and lower price. So if we're going to, I support this, but I also think the city, property owners that are interested in that area might want to consider bringing forth a similar application for their properties to change the nearby parcels to R17 as well. And I think if we have courage and want to do that independently of an application, we certainly could do that. But I think that's the direction I would see in this area that would help provide that supply that lowers prices.
And Mr. Mayor?
Kiki.
Not going to turn into debate. Again, just to remind council, I'm probably going to bring this up again at every zone change request and at every one. So this happened to be the first out of the gate, and I just want to give you a fair warning. There's some that are going to be at the other cities. Remind all their leaders to do what we can do for the attainable housing through development agreements and zone changes. And I'd love to invite you to some of the debates I've been to over supply and demand, because they go on and on. So I appreciate those comments, and I agree with your position.
Dan English.
Sure. Well, I think this was a good discussion to have, and we're all on the side of more housing in general, and kind of at every level, but affordable housing and workforce housing. And, you know, I think maybe some legislation came through this time where if it's something we need to take a look at, I mean, to put back in the little tiny homes and those kind of things on one end, but also I would say having this come forward on, I mean, trying to do this on everyone would be a misuse of resources and priority. Maybe we would do something like, you know, unless it's at least an acre or 2 acre, but I mean, at least something that makes sense, then, you know, we don't even try to mandate a development agreement. So anyway, that's my thought, so.
Good. I appreciate the discussion. The topic is the motion, which is to approve the zone change. Any other comments on the motion to approve the zone change? Okay, the clerk will take the roll.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Scheckler.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
The motion is carried. Now we need to, we've approved the zone change, now we need to adopt the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to dispense with the rule, read Council Bill number 25-1006 once by title only.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk will read the title. Oh, wait, no, we have to vote first. So, roll call.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Scheckler.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
The motion is carried. Now the clerk can read the title.
Council Bill Number 25-1006, an ordinance amending the zoning act of the City of Coeur d'Alene, Kootenai County, Idaho, known as Ordinance Number 1691, Ordinances of the City of Coeur d'Alene, by changing the following described property from MH mobile home at 8 units per acre to R17 residential at 17 units per acre, said property being described as follows, to wit, the west 175 feet of 75 Fruitland addition, according to the plat recorded in the office of the county recorder in Book C of plats at page 12, records of Kootenai County, Idaho, which is a .522 plus minus acre parcel located at 3620 North Fruitland Lane, repealing our ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith, provide a severability clause, providing for the publication of a summary of this ordinance and an effective date hereof.
Now we need a motion to adopt the council bill.
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt Council Bill 25-1006.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk can take the roll.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Scheckler? English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Motion carries. We're moving on to item number I2, which is Resolution 26027, approval of an agreement with Peter and Vicki Clancy for caretaker services at the Jewett House, presentation by Adam Rouse, our interim Parks and Rec Director.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Won't take up too much of your time. So for the first time in 41 years, we're coming to seek approval of a caretaker agreement for the Jewett House caretaker spot. After moving on from our previous caretaker some months back, we did a roughly 2-month recruitment. I went through, I think we did 2 or 3 interviews, and came to the decision that we'd like to offer the position to Peter and Vicki Clancy, who are here with me, who I'm sure will be happy to stand for any questions. But what this agreement is more formal. The old agreement was just a 1-page letter of appointment. It didn't really spell out the duties of the caretaker. So that's what we've done in this new agreement. Really spelled out the duties and expectations, and what it's going to do is help alleviate a lot of pressure off of our staff, who has assumed a lot of the grounds maintenance, building maintenance, some of that stuff. Some basic maintenance stuff will then fall on them. They'll help tours. They're going to staff all the weddings, open and close the house for the senior groups. So we're just asking for approval for that agreement.
Okay, are there any questions for Adam? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Adam, first of all, thank you for stepping up and being interested in really helping showcase this beautiful house to our community. My question is, will there be some sort of, I think there was a probationary period, which I'm sure you'll be fabulous, but what was really important to me over the years was that the caretaker was friendly and welcoming and made people really believe this is the house that belongs to Coeur d'Alene, not the caretakers. So that's just really important. I think I just wanted to say that moving forward, that it is important that everyone feels welcome there.
Yes, and since you've mentioned it, that actually was a huge topic of conversation as we went through that interview process. The understanding that it is a public facility, a gem down there on Sanders, but that it's important because they are the face of the city in dealing with the customers. So, that was a big piece of what led us to choose them. As you can see, Vicki's very smiley. Yeah, so that was such a huge piece for us, on top of some of the experience and stuff that they brought to the table. So.
Great,
yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Adam? Yes, Kiki.
Adam, how long is this agreement?
Doing it for 3 years.
Okay.
And then it's not an auto renew, but an option for us and them to renew for an additional 3.
Okay.
Which was a change from before because that old agreement was open-ended.
Open-ended. And so will that come back to council every 3 years, or?
I don't think that it needs to. That might be a question for Randy, but I think since it's built into the.
Now, generally, they don't come back if it's just a renewal as a matter of right.
Okay.
Any other questions? Dan? English.
Well, just to comment, I noticed one of the items here, which this is a big deal. The conditions is, one of them is a married couple with no additional dependents. So you're not going to have a kids' room coming along or adopt a dog or whatever, but grandma can't come, but I guess you got your eyes open, so.
That's very complimentary.
Yeah.
All of our kiddos are grown, so they have their own places to live.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, that would be, for a lot of people, that would seem an ideal thing, and the setting and all of that, and I would imagine, it'll be pretty easy to make it feel like, for them to feel like it's Coeur d'Alene's home is, they feel like it's your home and can see, and how somebody could have lived there in the past. So anyway, this is a good deal, so.
Any other questions? Okay, we'll look for council action.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 26-027, approving an agreement with Peter and Vicki Clancy for caretaker services at Jewett House.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will take the roll.
Miller?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Scheckler?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Peter and Vicky. You now get to live rent-free in the most beautiful house in Coeur d'Alene.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item I3, which is Resolution 26028, declaring that Veolia Water Technologies and Solutions is the only vendor reasonably available for the purchase of the tertiary membrane filtration TMF expansion phase 5C3A equipment, and authorize the wastewater department to negotiate a contract with, and you're going to tell me how the real way to, I'm just going to say Viola Water Technologies, because I don't know how to say that word.
I had to ask several times myself there, Mayor. It's not an easy word. It's Veolia.
Viola, very good. Thank you. Here's Mike Becker from the wastewater plant.
Well, good evening, Mayor and Council. Before I get started down this path, guess what?
What?
We have compost, lots of it, and we're giving it away this weekend. So I just wanted to bring that up at the council meeting. It is free. Bring your shovels. Again, I want to rain on Monty's parade. We will not be offering coffee and donuts. But bring your shovel and a bucket and help yourself to free compost. So, that being said, on the bigger and better things. Yes, this evening, we have a decision point. One, it's a two-part decision point, as the mayor stated. One is to declare Veolia as the only vendor available to provide this membrane product that we need for our TMF facility. And part two would be to authorize, if a declaration is made, to authorize the wastewater department to negotiate a purchase agreement with Veolia for said procurement of equipment. So with that, why do we need this? Well, as you may recall, back in 2014, we built a tertiary membrane filtration facility. This is the third and final treatment phase before we discharge into the Spokane River. We built it for 1 million gallons. Fast forward 3 years, we built an addition to that brought the total capacity up to 5 million gallons. Where do we need to be? We need to be at 6 million gallons. Why? Because if we ever have a problem where we need to shut down a membrane, or we need to clean membranes, which we do roughly 2 to 3 times a year, we have to have that additional capacity to remain fully operational, and we can't afford to be down. Now, back in 2014, we built a 6th tank, we call it a train, to accommodate membranes. At that time, we were not permitted to purchase the actual membrane product due to loan constraints with the Idaho Department of Environmental Quality. So here are, a little ways down the road, and we have planned for this project, and so we were, the timing of it couldn't be more critical now, because our wastewater influent flows actually support the need for this membrane to come online. We also plan on using this membrane as a decision point to determine when we need to replace our existing membranes. There's typically a 10-year life on our membranes. Our first phase is 12 years old. We took it down today and we actually pulled and looked at it, and it's in pretty good shape still. So fortunately, we don't have a pressing concern on this. Now, back in November, we hired JUB to help us out with this. And so for the past few months, we've been evaluating what other options do we have out there, keeping in mind that we have the constraints of our 6th tank that's already constructed and compatibility with our existing membranes. That includes pumps, blowers, electrical equipment, etc. So we want compatibility as well as having the ability to fit into that 6th tank without spending a lot of capital to retrofit our membrane facility. Over. So while there's a lot of technologies that exist out there, what's important is to remember that the treatment phase that's prior to the TMF, the tertiary membrane filtration facility, dictates what kind of membranes we use. There's a lot of membranes out there, but not very compatible with our secondary treatment process ahead of our membranes. So we have to keep that paramount in our consideration. Otherwise, we need to invest a lot of capital to change out our secondary treatment process, which really is not a consideration in our current facility plan. So we evaluated a bunch of companies out there. We evaluated a lot of technology that has state-of-the-art, and we still find ourselves relying on Z-weed, which is now produced by Veolia. And so they are primarily the most reasonable available resource that we can acquire this particular membrane with. And so we sat down with JUB, we drafted up a technical letter to how does this fit into Idaho code? Idaho code permits sole source procurement for any kind of specialty equipment. This clearly fits in that category. And so within that technical letter, we kind of outline all the justifications for that. Now, financially speaking, Phase 1 and Phase 2, you may recall, we took out SRF loan through the state of Idaho to pay for those membranes and the project. We have been planning for this, and we have saved up enough money to actually pay for this in-house. We do not need to take out a loan. So we got that plus also working for us. So based on all this information, and we do have the budget authority for this year to proceed with this, your decision point before council this evening is, 1, declare Veolia as the only reasonable source out there that can provide us with the product that we need. 2, if you do make that declaration, I do need to have council's approval to authorize the wastewater department to proceed negotiating a purchase agreement with Veolia for said equipment. So based on all that information, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Mike. So I just want to kind of drive it home in that normally for a sole source would needs to be approved by us, by the governing body, because it's the only one available. But in this case, there are multiple ones available, but this is the one that's the most compatible, and it still falls within the code, so we have to approve it as such.
We are asking for you to declare it as only reasonably sourced, right?
Okay.
So it has to be approved by the council this evening.
And the other ones, the other options that are available, there's a compatibility issue with that. There's, there would be a lot more overhead installing something that's similar but not exactly the same.
Yes, imagine putting a Chevy engine in a Ford pickup truck with a Dodge transmission. Just ain't gonna work, really. So we want to have compatibility with the existing equipment out there. That way, everything is operating exactly like each other, as well as we can utilize interchangeable parts here. And the compatibility also stems from fitting in the tank. A lot of these other membrane companies, either they can fit in the tank, but they have so much room they'll move around in the tank, or they're too big for our tank, and we'd have to just tear apart our tank and start over.
And we don't want to do that. So this is a two-part process. Number one is to approve that.
Yes.
And then you'll be coming back to us with the actual purchase agreement. So we're not purchasing anything tonight. We're just saying, go ahead and negotiate.
We'll negotiate, and then when we get ready to do the procurement, we will come before council, and then we'll come back again before council when we go out to bid to install the equipment.
We love seeing you here.
I just have so much fun up here.
It's the personality. Any questions for Mike? Yes, Dan English.
I was just going to say, I'm ready to make the motion, but
Any
if
questions
we're
on
good
this?
to go, I would.
Anyone want to try to take a stab at saying vendor's name? Because it's not spelled the way.
Well, we'll see when I get
Here
to
you
it.
go, Dan. Please make a
So I'll
motion.
make a motion to approve Resolution 2628, declaring that Veolia Water Technology and Solutions, Inc. is the only vendor reasonably available for the purchase of tertiary membrane filtration TMF expansion phase 5C.3A equipment and authorizing the wastewater department to negotiate a contract with Veolia Water Technologies and Solutions, Inc.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk can take the roll.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Scheckler?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Wood?
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
The motion is carried.
Thank you. Please don't forget about the compost.
Yes,
Love to
and
see you guys out there.
Compost is this weekend, and it's behind Lowe's. You go north on Julia, and the gate will be open.
Very into Julia, yes.
Okay, and that's where you can pick up your free compost.
You bet.
Good stuff.
It is.
All right.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Mike. We're going to move on to item number I-4, which is approval of an agreement and addendum with Life Inspection Vault, LIV, for third-party inspections. We have our Deputy Fire Marshal, Craig Etherton, with us.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us tonight. This is going to look fairly, well, it should look really familiar for most of you, except for our newest council member. But so this is something we brought forward several years ago, and we've gone back and forth on how and whether to implement it, and we've gotten to a point where we just really need to move forward with it. So I will try to be quick but brief. That's my goal. We'll see where we land. Okay. So basically what a third-party inspection is we use a third party, quite frankly, to manage a program of inspection of fire protection systems for us so that our prevention division staff do not have to try and chase down business owners and manage the annual inspections that are required in their businesses by code to ensure that the fire protection systems are safe and ready to go when they're needed. So we have some routes within the fire code which allow us this opportunity. So this is the code nerd stuff for you. And a couple of different avenues for us to be able to move forward with this. And really the main cruxes in this 1083 and record keeping is the fire code official is given the authority to choose how we want to record this data. And so it's our recommendation that we use this company to help us do that. So looking at some of the fire protection systems that could be within this program is, of course, fire sprinklers, fire alarms, our standpipes, fire pumps, fire extinguishers, kitchen hoods. There's a big, long gamut of fire protection systems. Any of those could be subject to being reported via this program, and we'll get to that when we get into the implementation part as to which systems we want them to record for us. So here's the big ticket, and you're going to probably hear this several times over the next few months for us, but we are short-staffed in the Fire Prevention Bureau. I started a number of years ago. We had fire marshal, an inspector, and a pub ed person. And 20 years later and a whole bunch of growth later, we have 2 deputy fire marshals. So that's the 30,000-foot view of our current situation. We really don't know how many systems we have out there. Our illustrious mayor told us there were 7,000 commercial occupancies at the State of the City address not too long ago. I thought we were about 2,500. So I don't know who's closer, us or AI. So
ChatGPT.
We will see, and hopefully using this program, we will be able to put a better track of those commercial spaces and those fire protection systems. Since we've started looking at this, we've actually changed our record management systems twice. So now our historical data is in 3 places, and so we would like to bring a lot of that back together and make it easier for us to manage. And the company that we're looking at has a couple of other modules that we may, we'll see how robust they are, but they may actually be able to replace a couple of modules in our records management system now that we pay an annual service for, and they are offering their modules to us for no charge. So some inspection tracking software and some pre-planned software that we currently are paying additional money on our records management to utilize. LiveSafe has some systems there that are included. So hopefully that'll be a net savings for us as well. But really the whole big main purpose of all of this is we want to make sure that the fire protection systems that protect our properties are maintained and they're operational. It's going to be interesting. There's been a fire burning all morning down in Ontario, California, 1 million square feet of warehouse that presumably was fire sprinklered. So it'll be interesting to see the reports come out on that and how that happens in a fire sprinkler building, but we don't want to see any of that here. We want the fire sprinklers to work when they need to work. So just a couple of little stats here. So from the company that we're looking at, they provided this, just kind of generally looking at systems that they as they come online and they're looking at their initial numbers. So they see an average of about 44% of systems that are not being inspected at all. About 75% of departments that they start to work with have limited personnel in order to maintain these programs. And they say they see a reduction in false alarms once the program is underway. Justin was working on pulling some numbers for that. We couldn't quite get it done. He's down in Texas learning how to do that right now, so we'll figure those stats out for you shortly. So basically, how does it work? We've got a third-party company that will come in. They will coordinate with all of the companies in our region that do inspection, testing, and maintenance, or ITM, in our region. Currently, we get about 3 or 4 companies who are reporting to us regularly, and there's probably about a dozen or so companies that are reporting or that are doing system inspections, but they're not reporting to us. So hopefully LiveSafe is going to come in. They're going to get with all of our local vendors that are doing these things. They'll meet with our team, figure out how we want our system to work, and then we will work to create the discrepancy forms and violation forms. A lot of what happens now, and one of the reasons that this is really becoming more of a thing, and there was a concern a number of years ago, is, well, yes, we do have these 3 or 4 companies who are reporting to us, but they're reporting to us that there's a problem that needs to be fixed, and the property owners are choosing not to fix it because it's the company that did the inspection telling them they need to do something, and presumably we assume that the owners are taking that as suggestions, or that the ITM companies are trying to upcharge them and get more work out of them. And that's not the case at all. They're in violation. So one of the things that as we partner with them, we will work together to create the deficiency and violation letters. They will be on our letterhead so that when the system is reported deficient, that owner gets a letter from us via LiveSafe that says, no, for real, you got to get this fixed, right? So, and I think that's one of the big producers of how we start to gain that compliance through there. Yep. Okay, so it's a computer program like everything else. It has a dashboard for us on our end, so we're able to see the systems that are being uploaded to the system, the fire protection systems that are being uploaded. So this gives us a quick glance to see, 20 inspections were done yesterday in Coeur d'Alene, and 14 of them were in compliance. Here are 6 of them that have deficiencies that need to be looked at, and then we can concentrate on those ones that need to be looked at and addressed, and really kind of let the ones that are in compliance kind of move on. And their analytics with this are very robust as well, so we'll have some good data for you next year. Sorry, am I talking too fast?
No.
Okay, sorry. We were gonna go to general services, but you guys have been workshopping like crazy, so we had to, we're making choices here, sorry. So what do we do, our 2 deputy fire marshals, when we're not broken, recovering from stuff? We are doing plan reviews and permit occupancy inspections. We're doing all your licensure inspections, including food vendors. I swear we checked him, he's good. The very first food vendors I believe we even looked at was a hot dog stand on Sherman, right, Chief? And the barbecue at Eagles. So they were the impetus of it all, hot dogs were. So we will work with the city any way we can to help out hot dog stands. We're also doing public education, so we get out into the schools. We do lots of public events, like Rain in the Park and Kids Family Day in the Park, and all of those fun deals as well. Of course, we have several meetings throughout with city departments in our community, and we do a whole bunch of special events. Renata and Kelly keep us very busy, making sure that whatever happens in town is good. So here's just a real quick example that we had a couple of years ago in a hotel. So we had a small fire. The fire sprinkler actually it worked as it was designed. Fire was contained to just one room. This is all great, but some things that we noted when we got in there and started looking around. You can see in the bottom left corner, that doorway only has one of its 2 doors, so that's not great. We had painted sprinkler heads. We had sprinkler heads that were all charged with dust and debris, and maintenance obviously was not getting done as it should. So this was, I would consider this a near miss, right? It worked. We kept the fire to the one room, so that's good. But had it been somewhere else, like near these fire doors that the fire could have spread, or in one of these, near one of these heads that is not maintained very well, then maybe we would not have had the same outcome. All right, so what does it cost? That's the big deal. The super awesome part for us is it costs the city and the fire department $0. So how this works is the ITM companies, the companies that are actually physically doing the maintenance on our systems, are required to pay $18 to submit a system inspection report to LiveSafe, and that is the charge. And then when this kind of started, there was a little bit of maybe the ITM companies would eat some and they'd pass some on to the customers. Probably, I'm guessing at this point in time, most of it's going to the customers, but nothing to the city, nothing to the fire department. We're looking at this as a new program and something that's here to capture 100 years of data on our buildings. We would at least like to start with the first year or two with the preliminary plan review offered by LiveSafe. So for each system report that comes in, they have a retired fire marshal who's super good fire marshal from down south that is now working with LiveSafe. He will do a preliminary evaluation of those deficiencies and kind of give us a report like, this is okay, we've got some time before this one really needs to get done, or hey, I need to get a hold of Craig and Justin and we need to have them get out there and address this with the owners right away. It's very, very significant deficiency, right? So there's an extra $5 fee there. Spokane Valley and Meridian, I believe, add an additional charge, and they use that as a revenue stream to pay a couple of part-time fire inspectors who can then go out and chase down these deficiencies and work with everybody involved to get them done. So that is also an option. That is not something that right now we felt we wanted to move forward with, but down the road, maybe that's an avenue that council would want us to look into as a revenue source. I guess the big thing is how many systems is it going to be and what could it generate here? I think we need to know that first before we move forward and ask anything there. Sorry. So for contractors, one of the big things is they're making a little bit more money. They are providing automatic notices to the owners. Everything is done digitally, so they can upload reports super fast. One of the things that they've found over time is the inspection companies, what we may call a fly-by-night type of an inspection company that maybe has not done a good job or maybe was pencil whipping inspections in the past. We should be able to catch those now, and we should be able to move those out. And then other companies who are doing a great job will be able to take over those accounts and be successful. So again, there's that big list there that we kind of talked about. So basically, we're just asking for your support and also to sign onto our agreement as we would like to move forward with Live Safe products. There is a contract that you guys should have. We went back and forth. Randy helped me a lot to get all of the parts and pieces. There's two. There's the contract and the addendum. The contract is for the program overall. The addendum is the additional piece for the reviewer, for the professional reviewer. So that's the addendum, the second piece. It's a whole ton of words for them to tell us that either one way or the other, 90 days, if it doesn't work out, we can get out, and we own all of the data that's collected between now and then. So many pages to say just those few things, but I guess that's the way the law works. So why are we choosing Life Inspection Vault? Well, quite frankly, they were one of the first companies. They were the first company that brought this concept to us many years ago. They're a couple of young men who were doing inspection, testing, and maintenance out of Pocatello, I do believe. And they struck out on their own and have been developing this system ever since. There were two other larger companies that both charged a little bit more for their upload of their reports. They've since merged, and then, like I was telling you, we do have they offer a couple of additional modules, which we're hoping will be able to knock out some cost in our records management. Boom. So here's why they say it's a good deal, and that's it. So really the big takeaways for us is it's not going to cost the city or the fire department anything to move forward with this project. We feel like it's cost effective without increasing current levels of service. Right now, today, as I'm standing here, I'm not seeking any FTEs, but things change. We hope to increase compliance and tracking of our fire protection systems in town. And hopefully, as we do that, we're very close to an ISRB insurance rating change, and inspections was one of the deficient spots in our program for our city. So hopefully this will give us an opportunity to maybe even move up our ISO rating. And of course, what it's all about is increasing public safety through ensuring proper maintenance and service of our fire protection systems. and to you. Sorry, I tried to go fast. There's a lot there.
Thank you, Craig. Any questions for Craig on the, Christie, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A comment, Craig. Yes, I'd like you to look at the revenue sources that are out there. And you said City of Spokane Valley, was that?
Yeah, I think Spokane Valley adds an additional, or they did a few years ago, they were adding an additional $15 per upload. And then they were, that $15 came to the fire department, and they hired a intern, inspector to travel around and double check systems and make sure.
So maybe in time for our budget hearings, maybe you could come back with some real-time data
Sure.
on that?
Yep.
Thank you.
Any other questions, Council? Dan English.
Just that, thinking about it from the user point of view, which, we've got our small business and inspection, so if the inspector comes in and looks at this, do they do any maintenance themselves, or at least can they just, again, from the business owner, okay, I need to have this or that, can they at least give a list of, well, these are companies that we would recommend, or, is there some usefulness for the people, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
how to get it done?
So this is all, it's going to kind of, well, the system is going to be umbrella that's managing the inspections.
Okay.
But the inspection companies, as they're coming in as they normally have, or as we're uploading things and they're doing their back end research, finding buildings out there that haven't had inspections on them ever or in a while, then they are also tracking all of the licensed, registered inspection companies in our area who are, like, sprinkler contractors have to be registered with the state fire marshal's office, and they have to be in good standing, right? So they're not going to recommend to a business owner an inspection company or a service company who is not in good standing with the state fire marshal's office and the regulations that are in place there.
Okay.
So, yep. Real good.
Dan Scheckler.
I might have a few questions, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, the one guy who hadn't seen it before. I knew it.
Please forgive me, I'm new, so
All good. Please forgive me, I talked fast.
I'm not sure I fully understand this, so.
You bet.
There's the ITM companies, the inspection, testing, and maintenance companies.
Yes, sir.
And if I'm a commercial property owner and I own property, how does that person come and inspect my property?
Maintenance on your systems, your fire protection systems, is required every year. So, like here at the city, Adam Court, or
Rico.
I've been there
coordinates
where I
the
couldn't
ITM companies to come through all of our buildings that have fire sprinkler and fire alarm systems, and they come through and they do the inspection, testing, and maintenance of all of our systems, of all of our buildings.
So if I'm a commercial property owner, I might call up a ITM company to come to my property and inspect it.
Yes, sir.
And then they would enter into this software company, this LIV company, the results of that inspection.
Yep.
If I was in violation as a commercial owner, then this software company would automatically generate a letter notifying me that I was in violation.
Correct.
Would there be any fines associated with that, or it would just be a notification?
We have always tried to take as soft a hand as we can with safety in mind, right? So if you're, the little metal thing around a fire sprinkler head is called an escutcheon. They fall off sometimes, missing an escutcheon on your report, we're probably not coming after you and throwing the big orange sticker on the outside of the door, right? But if we get there and there's no water supply to your fire sprinkler system, then yeah, you're probably getting the big orange sticker. So part of what we will do with Live Safe is create what that workflow looks like for violations and time, right? So the first time after your inspection has been done and a deficiency of some sort is noted, you're going to get a letter, again, that's going to come, instead of coming from, say, Johnson Control, that says, hey, you were missing these things and we need to get them fixed. You have a sprinkler head that is blocked by a wall that was put up at some point in time, right? Now you're going to get, instead of that letter just from that company, the ITM company, and you go, do I really need to do that? Or are they just trying to generate some work, right? Now you're going to get a letter from us. It's going to say, hey, look, you had an inspection. It looks like there was a minor deficiency noted. Please remediate in the next 30 days, whatever it is. If they don't do it in 30 days, then they're going to get another. Then they're going to get another letter, and this one's probably a little more, to the point, and with a better timeline for us for safety. So, and that's the nuts and bolts that we will work through with them is timelines and the strength of the letter. There is definitely a point that comes where we do have within city ordinance via the adoption of the fire code to institute fines, and I believe they're misdemeanor fines, civil citations for not keeping your system in working order.
So that letter that you referenced, does that get generated automatically, or does the fire department verify the findings of the private party inspection report?
So that's a great question, and we have to work a little bit to figure out where the line with the reviewer is, right? So those are kind of the nitty-gritty parts on how that will work. I know when Northern Lakes implemented a number of years ago, there was some confusion on their letter and the stoutness of the letter, and maybe the stout letter came on the initial notification, and so that rubbed people the wrong way. But we now know that, so we can fix that, and we'll implement better.
One of the things you commented on at the beginning of my questions was that the commercial owner would hire this person to do the inspection. What if they don't hire somebody to do their annual inspection?
Then they are in violation of maintaining their system.
How does the fire department find out about that? How does that get tracked?
Not well enough. So we used to do, well, and ideally we would love to do it in company inspections of all of our commercial buildings. We stopped doing it for a long time. We brought it back in 2008. It took us 5 years to get every commercial occupancy in Coeur d'Alene at that time to get an inspection done. And we had to use not only our prevention staff, but we also used our suppression crews as well to supplement that process of trying to get in and do what the code really asks to be done annually. So ideally, in the most perfect world that I could have for us, it would be we have enough personnel and time to inspect every commercial occupancy in the city every year. That's the gold standard. We're a long, long ways from being able to do that. So what we do is we try to concentrate on higher risk events and the licensure requirements, right? We do daycare inspections, and we work with the school district when they do their annual inspections, and we try and get restaurants and bars downtown, hopefully at least annually. But we get what we can get, and that's really why we don't have a good database of what's out there and what's things have changed a lot since the time that we finished with our engine company inspections, including our engine company personnel running 5,000 more calls a year. So we can't use them anymore.
And then lastly, one of the areas that was interesting to me is that this is going to be data from the real property owners that's going to be stored, managed, and controlled by this LIV company. What sort of data security measures do those property owners have that will be managed safely by this third-party vendor?
Let me see. So they sent us a bunch of questions for our IT guys, and our IT guys. So our IT had questions about the formatting and the data dump. And so they said they had standard procedures for how we do that. We have, there's API access that will coordinate between programs that we use in-house. They have no external authentication methods right now for their system. Support team assists users with administration and setting up of new accounts and upgrades. We can add as many users as we need to for them to be able, and they are working on MFAs for logins, and I assume that's a computer thing. So that came from our IT department coordinating with LIV and their staff. So the information is not, it's not tremendously confidential, I guess. I mean, it's confidential in the way that the inspection and maintenance company knows that you own this building and you have systems. So, I mean, I guess that level of confidentiality is passed on to LIV, which is why, one of the reasons why we're signing a contract with them, and they're working on our behalf, and so we expect them to act a certain way toward our people and our citizens, and so I guess there's that.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Dan English.
Well, just one of the things that I see a benefit of this is, sounds like, you'll, like I say, you don't know how many are out there and this or that and all. So you will at least start with a data point of where you find out, how many, this and that. And I remember when we went back through the whole vacation rental thing, and at the beginning, it's like we didn't even know how many, and might be 50, there might be 500, and we did all of that, and then, then put our things together, and unfortunately, the legislature, I think, passed something that after July 1st, we're not even able to say the words vacation rental out loud, but that's a separate, but the information will be good to take a survey of where the city's at, so. Yep.
Yeah, certainly. And I think one of the fire marshals down in Meridian, I think when we spoke about this years ago, he said before their implementation, or what they found when they got in and started the program, they were about 60 to 65% compliance within the city of Meridian, and within a couple of years they had brought that compliance of systems up to 85-90%. So
great.
I think that's a good win for our communities, is to bring up our compliance for sure.
Yes, Kenny.
Mr. Mayor, this is a great thing, and because it's a great thing, I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 26-029, approving an agreement and addendum, with Life Inspections Vault for third-party inspections.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion on the motion or questions for Craig?
I just want to say thank you for a very comprehensive presentation, so thank you for all the information.
Great, thanks.
Good, yes, thank you, Craig.
Maybe just one thing. Craig, how soon would this start with the vendor?
So once we begin implementation, they are estimating about 30 days. So they're also down in Texas at the ESO conference learning about that system. So when they return from that, we'll start working through the contract signatures and the initial meetings, and then we're hoping a 30-day-ish after that. So 60 days, I'd like to say we'd be fully on board.
Okay, the reason I ask is if we're going to roll this out, which is a good thing, he's right, it's a good thing, why wouldn't we try to include the fee up front if there's a revenue opportunity here that we're not ever going to be paying for this? So I guess I would just ask you to get that information to the city administrator as soon as possible. Maybe we could come back and take a look at, should we add it before
April
we even launch
27th,
it?
we have a meeting, right, for the budget meeting.
Thank you.
There's never a better chance than right now when
Right
it's
when we
the
launch
first
it.
blush, yeah.
Take it.
And it's just, oh yeah, this is just how it comes.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part will be really what's our number. So if it's 15, if we add a $15 to each inspection upload, and we only have 1,000 systems, which I think we have more than that, but it's something. It ain't nothing, but I don't know if that's worth the squeeze for you guys who will join me in receiving phone calls from the occupants on having $30 a system added to their deal.
Well, we're always
That being
looking-
said, I also had an example. I think I wiped it out, but I think the resort for about 7 systems: sprinklers, alarms, kitchen hoods, fire extinguishers, standpipes. I think they're looking currently to only add about $160 to their annual inspection. So that's a big building with a lot of systems that will be
Doesn't
up.
seem like all things are equal. And when we look at our fees every year, that's really important to us. So I
Sure.
would, just my preference on how council feels, I'd
Good
like to
point,
launch it
good
with a
point.
fee.
You bet.
Do you want to
Like you want to
modify
launch it right now with the fee?
Well, are you going to come back to us again? I will amend
Yes,
your.
I'll absolutely be back.
Why don't you come back with what an appropriate fee would be, so we're not spitballing?
You bet.
Any other questions or discussion on the motion?
Just that, yeah, I assume you'd
And
have
English.
you could bring a draft agreement, and then that would have that, so, yeah.
You'll be back.
I'll be back.
You'll be back. Okay.
And I'll
We-
have a shorter presentation or talk slower, or both.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Scheckler,
No.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Motion carries. Moving on to item number I-5, which is Resolution 26030, approval of submit for, and if awarded, to accept an Edward Byrd Memorial Justice Grant, fiscal year 2025 local solicitation and purchase of 4 Motorola N70 portable radios for school resource officer use in the amount of $29,308. Staff report, Chief Hagar.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, and this is not a typo, it is 2025. The federal government's a little bit behind, and we just had this released last week. What this is for what they call quad band radios. There's a couple what we call dead areas in this city. Along 15th Street over by Lakes Middle School is one of our dead areas, and we upgraded their radio. There's areas of that school where the SRO just couldn't get out, couldn't hear dispatch and couldn't contact dispatch. And there's a few of those other areas that we found. The hospital is a horrible place for us because of the way it's built. You get into the depths of the hospital and we call it getting bonked. You press the button, all you hear is a tone and you don't hear anything. So what this is for 4 radios. And I know that the cost is high for 4 radios. Back in when I first started this, we had little crystals that you put in, you had 8 channels. And now I can talk to anybody across the country in these things. The radios themselves are are $7,514 a piece. So the total for the 4 radios is about $750 more than what this grant is for. But it's going to give us what we call hazard zone communication and that critical communication. We're going to deploy the radios to both of our high school SROs because those buildings are larger and you can kind of get into the middle of a school. And then our 2 elementary SROs because they're in kind of some of the darker areas where we have the shadows from the radio communications. There's no match for the city with this. And so the total grant is $29,308. And again, there's about a $750 difference, but we can absorb that communications line. And it'll increase our capability to communicate from those darker places. Eventually, it's the way the city's going to end up going with our radio systems, just to be able to do that, because it used to be the 700 and 800 megahertz. This adds cellular and Wi-Fi, and so it automatically connects to the Wi-Fi in the schools or where you're at, and that allows us to communicate. So again, Mayor, as you said, the request tonight is to approve the application, and then if we're approved, the acceptance of this grant. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Chief? Well, that was hard.
I just have a comment, Mr. Mayor, if I
Go
could.
ahead.
The school resource officers do a great job. I'm glad to see them get the tools they need, but they're some of your finest officers, and they just do fabulous work, and I'd like to commend you and the department for that.
Well, we appreciate that, and, you know, to kind of dovetail that, there was an incident at one of our neighboring schools. So just so you guys have an idea, because I know sometimes people have questions, every sergeant and above in our agency gets an automatic text when a school goes into lockdown. And we'll get a heads up when they do a drill, and it'll say there'll be a drill at 1:30 this afternoon at whatever the school is, so therefore we don't freak out when that text message goes off. But when you get the text message and you don't have a drill, we assume that it's an active shooter, and we respond as such. And we had one of these incidents 2 weeks ago, and it was in a neighboring jurisdiction, but we all respond to this. And we had Coeur d'Alene officers and Kootenai County Sheriff's deputies on scene within minutes, and within about 7 minutes, we had over 30 personnel there going room to room. And the way the situation unfolded was that it was a computer error. The computer generated this, and I could go into the IT tech, but they'd updated part of the system, and it decided to just throw this notification out. So normally they can tell us what room, what button was pressed. We couldn't get that, so we had to assume that something bad was happening going room to room, and it was up at Hayden Meadows. So again, the way we respond to this, and like you said, Councilmember Scheckler, we're dedicated, and we have protocols. So the nearest 2 SROs are going to go, if you're a school farther away, they jump onto their camera system, start looking through all the hallways and the classrooms to try to give us an idea of what's there so we can immediately get to that threat. And, you know, our kids are valuable resources, and so that's why we put the effort into it. So again, that's why the page goes out and we all respond. Everybody leaves the building, myself included, and we get up there and take care of business.
That's excellent.
Very good. Look for a motion.
I would make a motion to approve resolution number 26-030, approval to submit for and if awarded to accept an Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant for year 2025, local solicitation to purchase 4 Motorola N70 portable radios for school resource officer use in the amount of $29,308.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Evans.
Yes.
Miller.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Schiller.
Yes.
Motion has carried. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Next up is item I6, resolution number 26031, approval of the 2026 Kootenai County multi-jurisdictional all-hazard mitigation plan. Our planning director, Hillary Patterson. Thank you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and council members. Yes, I am here before you this evening asking for you to approve of the 2026 County Multi-Jurisdictional All-Hazard Mitigation Plan. This is something that is pretty routine. We've been participating in this for many years, and the plans are good for 5 years. So this latest effort was drafted in part by the Kootenai County Office of Emergency Management. They led the effort, this year. They had a local emergency planning committee, local municipalities, special districts, special purpose districts, and a steering committee all participated. The document was submitted to FEMA for review, and they approved of it. I wanted to note that you all had received invitation to participate in the survey to help identify for Coeur d'Alene what our hazards were, what we felt were the biggest risks, as well as providing some input on mitigation projects. So this is something that we want to do so that we have in place a plan and identified mitigation projects in case there is an emergency that were eligible for the FEMA funding. So I wanted to note all of that. We did have representation from city's fire, police, and planning departments, participated in those meetings last year, and there is a separate chapter, which they call an annex, that's in the document. You have that in the council packet, and I provided links to the full plan. There's over 500 pages, so there's the main kind of plan that's countywide, and then each of the jurisdictions have their own, and the special districts have our own annex. So that was provided to you. We identified as the top 5 hazards for Coeur d'Alene specifically were windstorms, winter storms, cybersecurity, wildfires, and active shooter threats. There are 15 hazard mitigation projects and initiatives that we've identified in this current plan, and we've also identified funding sources for that. So of those, there are, let me flip to the page, several of those were ongoing ones that we'd had in previous plans, and then we have 5 new ones that were included. So the new ones were assessing the need for backup generators in city buildings, hiring evaluators and arborists to evaluate the health of the tree canopy in the urban forest, increase backup storage and security of city IT hardware and software, replace aging Opticom system, including personnel for support and installation, and purchasing new riot gear, and RTF needed equipment to replace old equipment as it expires. So, with that, I would ask you to approve of this plan and stand for any questions.
Thank you, Hillary. Any questions for Hillary? Christie?
Thank you, Hillary. This plan, this mitigation plan, it's required by the federal government, so we can benefit from FEMA.
That's
if,
correct.
God forbid, there were ever one of the events you've outlined. What about at the state level? Is it just required by the feds?
I think it's just a requirement of the feds, but it is something that everyone locally participates in just because of, we don't want to not be eligible for those funds.
Right.
And I should note too, their Kootenai County Commissioners, they've adopted it, City of Hayden, Spirit Lake, the Eastside Highway District, Eastside Fire District, and KCEMS have all adopted by resolution, and they're waiting for the rest of us, and then they'll include the resolutions in the plan that's online.
Well, your team did a nice job on it.
Thank you. And I do want to acknowledge that the staff at the OEM did a fantastic job. They, in previous years, had used a consulting firm, and this year they did it themselves, and they really did a fantastic job facilitating the meetings, and then the document, if you've seen it, it's excellent in terms of how it's well organized and easy to read and use.
I agree. Any other questions for Hillary?
No, good job.
Okay, we'll look for council action.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve Resolution 26-031, approval of the 2026 Kootenai County Multi-Jurisdictional All-Hazard Mitigation Plan.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Clerk will take the roll.
Wood,
Yes.
Evans?
Yes.
Miller?
Aye.
Gabriel?
Yes.
Scheckler?
Yes.
English?
Yes.
Motion carried. Now we're moving on to our public hearing. There is a sign-up sheet, which we'll have shortly in case anyone still needs to sign up. We can accept you, and we do have 2 people signed up. Excellent. We had to change the title on this, so read the proper title, which is a utility hearing for the relocation of utility facilities as required by the respective franchise agreements to accommodate the Ramsey Road Signal Upgrade Project's key number 24276. Staff report by City Engineer Chris Bosley.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. This is the moment you've all been waiting for tonight, I'm sure. This is our public hearing for utility on our Ramsey Road Signal Upgrade Project. First, I'd just like to say, because this is brand new news to us, is that we were just notified that the funding for construction was moved up. So later this summer, or spring hopefully, I'll be bringing a state-local agreement to you so we can get that thing out to bid and get this project going. So what this is our Ramsey Road Signal Upgrade Project. We were awarded some funding, over $1 million, to upgrade signals on Ramsey Road and coordinate them to have a nice coordinated signal system similar to what we did to Government Way in the last couple of years. This one, we're also looking at, or we're installing a signal at Wilbur Avenue and Ramsey Road. And that is the place where we have some utility conflicts. So part of ITD's procedures for projects with their state funding is that we have to get a utility waiver of hearing signed by every utility company that is involved with the project. There are 9 utility companies and plus the City of Coeur, because we have a couple of our water and sewer out there also. So any of those utilities are in there. We send this waiver out to them, or our consultant JUB sends the waiver out to them, and we hope that they sign it so that we don't have to have this hearing. But we had one utility company, after multiple attempts, wouldn't sign it, so here we are. So here is the sample of the utility sheet that shows utilities to be moved, and that's pretty boring stuff unless you're an engineer. But there are the poles, the utility poles along Ramsey Road at the Wilbur intersection that require relocation. So Avista owns the poles and will be relocating those, but then every one of those communication companies that's hanging on there needs to move over to the new poles. We had to do this a couple years ago with the RRFB project, which is why the wrong title ended up on the agenda. But with that, there are 2 possible actions after the hearing is opened up for you to entertain. One is to require that utility companies move, which they're required under their franchise agreements anyway, or table the action, and I'm not sure what that would get us. Now I would stand for any questions.
Any questions for Chris on this topic? Okay. Well, yes, Dan Scheckler.
How does the utility company get some sort of compensation from ratepayers or increased rates if we approve this?
If what?
If we approve this, to require them to move their utilities?
No.
Do they?
They're required to move any utilities that are in our public right-of-way. When we do a road project, they're required to relocate where they can. If they're outside of the right-of-way and we widened and bought right-of-way and had them move, then we would have to pay for that relocation. On this, the utility companies are required by their franchise utility agreements to pay for that relocation themselves. They do pass that on to the ratepayers, I'm sure.
Okay. Any other questions for Chris? This is a legislative hearing, so I'll open the hearing, and I have 2 people signed up, and they were both here earlier. They're not here anymore. I had Mary J. Merrill signed up, did not say whether she was in favor or opposed, and then Link Shadley signed up and did not specify favor or opposed. Is anyone else present would like to testify on the hearing? And I will close the hearing, and we will either ask more questions or take council action at this point.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Amy, please.
I'll make a motion, wait a second, to require utility companies to relocate their utility facilities as required by franchise agreements to accommodate the Ramsey Road signal upgrades project key number 24276.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes?
Scheckler,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
Very good. The motion is carried, and we move on to item K, which is, again, this is added to the agenda today, which is to enter into executive session.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to enter into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061A to consider hiring a public officer, employee, staff member, or individual agent, wherein the respective qualities of individuals are to be evaluated in order to fill a particular vacancy or need.
Second.
The motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Evans,
Yes.
Miller,
Aye.
Gabriel,
Yes.
Scheckler,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Wood,
Yes.
The motion is carried. We're in executive session. We will be returning here to take council action after the executive session.
Do we have a moment for a bathroom?
Oh, yeah, go ahead. executive session. Does the city administrator have a recommendation for us?
Yes, sir. I'd like to ask for council confirmation to extend an offer to John Fugette as the next fire chief for the city of Coeur d'Alene.
Very good. We'll want a motion to approve the appointment of John Fugette to the position of fire chief for the city of Coeur d'Alene. Actually, to approve the offer. I'm just reading what's written here. To approve the offer as made by the city administrator.
So moved.
Second.
I'm sorry, we have a question from our attorney. He has a face. Okay, it was Kiki Miller who seconded it. And English made the motion. All right, any questions or discussion on the motion? Right, we'll do a roll call, please.
Miller.
Aye.
Gabriel.
Yes.
Yes.
English.
Yes.
Wood.
Yes.
Yes.
The motion has carried. Now, our last item for the night is a recess to the library community room located here for a joint workshop.
Mr. Mayor, if I may just
Oh, I'm sorry.
extend a welcome to John. We're excited to have him join our team, and we're excited to continue our great relationship with Jake and have him be part of the city. So,
Very good. Would you also like to make a recess motion?
oh, absolutely. I'll make a motion that we recess to April 13th, 2026 at noon in the library community room located at 702 East Front Avenue for a joint workshop and with the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second by Gabriel.
Sure.
To recess, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are recessed. Thank you.